morning. We're here on Radio Vision Network's Morning Coffee Show. I'm Gary Frisch here with Mark to do our Reputation Rap segment.
What's happening, Gary? I'm good.
Good.
I feel like we haven't seen each other in a while, so it's
we've had a couple of cancellations.
Yeah, good to get back together.
Yeah, and my head's spinning with all the political stuff that's going on right now, and gosh, we could do a whole hour on the PR of politics.
Yeah. I think we were probably better off maybe avoiding that whole thing. I think a lot of people are burnt out on it. I know I am a little bit. Yeah,
I am, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
got some great stuff though that you want to talk about today because look, we've got a lot of business leaders out there that want to get their message out there. They're really they write a lot, right? I mean, writing is still the best form of communication, right? So let's jump right into it.
And I've talked about on the segment before, self-publishing for thought leadership. Get your credentials out there, get your authority, get your expertise out there on platforms such as LinkedIn.
Right.
And publishing on LinkedIn, publishing anywhere is good, but if you can get published someplace else that's not self-published, that's even better.
Right.
That's a nice thing because that adds legitimacy to it.
Right.
It adds that imprimatur of a media outlet.
Well, it's coming from somewhere
industry.
else. It's not just me pushing it on you. It's adding a little bit of validity to it.
Yes, it's that third-party endorsement that PR talks about, and it says that this publication thought that what you had to say was important enough to take up space in their publication.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a really nice way to generate expert credentials.
Right.
And so I want to start off by talking about publishing in magazines, trade magazines perhaps within your industry, because people have come to me and said, "Hey Gary, I've got this great article I wrote, and I don't know what to do with it." And there are things you can do with it.
Right.
I mean, depending on the topic, you can get it out there, in local papers or industry magazines. And so the first thing to do is think about what your expertise is. If you haven't written anything yet, think about what you can bring to that conversation, what information you can share with colleagues, professional colleagues,
Right.
or prospective clients, because ultimately you want to get business as a result.
Yeah, because everybody can bring something different to the table, and it's a matter of formalizing your thoughts and putting them on paper. A lot of people, I think it's the organization factor to it, right?
Absolutely.
They don't know how to approach it from the beginning, and this is something that you can help them with.
Right. Well, there's two different processes. One, they've already written something and they say, "Hey, I
Right.
don't know what to do with this. Hey, can you take a look at it?" The other is, "I want to write something." So, starting with that, again, think about what your expertise is. Think about in terms of timely topics. What are people in your industry concerned with right now, and what can you share about that? That's a great idea. One of my part-time clients came to me just that way. Actually, he had already written something on PCI compliance. PCI is processing something with credit cards.
Right.
It's a fee that everybody who takes credit cards is charged, basically.
And it's a hot right now because of the chip and all
Yes.
of that stuff going on.
Yes, he's an expert in merchant services
Mhm.
and point of purchase, etc. And he has this nice article about how much you should be paying for this fee and what you're getting for that fee.
Right.
Now that's a little bit esoteric. It's for retailers. It's for restaurants. It's for businesses that process credit, that take credit cards.
Right.
That's about it. It's not for everybody.
Right.
And so I said, let's try to get this placed in some publications within that industry.
You wanted to target.
that are read by merchants, that are read by restaurants. So you have an idea and you want to think who you want to talk to. And then you do a little research online, or you come to me or someone such as myself, and you want to try to put together a list of those publications that are targeting the people you want to reach.
Right.
Who's most interested in reading about this? That's
Right.
what you want to ask yourself. And, in addition to why am I qualified to write about it, you should always have that in the back of your head as you're writing as well. But what I suggest doing is putting together a list in order of hierarchy. What's the holy grail publication that you want to be in? Maybe it's based on the quality of the readership. Maybe it's based on the circulation.
Mm-hmm.
50,000 circulation versus 5,000 circulation. So you can just go strictly by circulation, or 1, 2, 3, 4. How you rate the readership.
Right.
How relevant to what you do is the readership.
Right.
If it's a publication that you've advertised in before, or you've considered advertising in, that might tell you all you need to know. That
Right.
that's a publication that's important to you. So what you do is once you've written the article, you reach out to an editor. You know, it's all about, person to person.
Right.
And you say, hey, I wrote this article on such and such. I think it would be of great interest to your readers. And then a little bit of background of yourself. How long you've been in the business.
Right.
Who your clients are.
You got to prove why you're the expert, right?
Right.
Basically, you're not rattling off your resume, but you're saying, well, this is why I'm qualified to be able to write or speak on this topic.
Right, and maybe you've taught the subject
Right.
someplace. You'll want to mention that. If you've been published elsewhere, you'll want to mention that. And you send an email off with the attached article to that editor. You say to them, hey, I'm offering this to you first because I read your publication, I value your publication, I would love to be in the publication, and I think this would be of great interest to your readers.
Right.
And then you wait. Don't send it off to multiple publications at the same time. This kind of is similar to the old school of, publishing a book kind of thing. You don't want to send multiple submissions.
Right.
Give them the exclusive window to use it. And then if they say no, you follow up with them. And you say, hey, just checking back, I sent you this article, I'm curious to know if you have any use for it. And if they say yes, wonderful. And if they say no, then you move on.
You move on to the next one,
on
right.
the list. You thank them.
Now, when you talk about reaching out to the editor, because I think that might be intimidating for some people, not for others, but do you notice that there's a higher success rate, like if you were to reach out to the editor on behalf of one of your clients, or does it kind of not work that way? The editor, it is the editor's job to look at everything that comes through.
That's a good question. It really is the editor's job to look at everything that comes through, and if the article and the subject has merit, it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
who
where
it's
it comes
coming
from. Right, that's a great
I've
point.
got clients who, and it's a case-by-case basis. Sometimes I'll say, I will submit this on your behalf, because it makes you look bigger if it's being submitted by an agent or a PR representative.
Of course, I know that from my world, that it looks better when my agent submits me versus me doing it my own. Right.
But sometimes you'll want to submit it yourself, especially if you want to appear as kind of a novice, and the editor might think, hey, this guy's for real. He's not hiding behind
somebody
a
else.
manager
Right.
or a rep.
So you could use it as your strategy as well, right? You can add some strategic elements on how you want to approach an editor or a publication with the material that you have.
Yes.
That's cool.
And
it's
so
really cool.
The most important thing is to find that right publication. Do a little research, find out who the editor-in-chief is or the editor of the publication. It has to be an editor title. Maybe it's a senior editor, an associate editor. It's not going to be a contributor. It's not going to be an editor at large.
Right.
So as far as the nitty-gritty goes, you want to reach out to one of the top editors. If you're talking about, and we'll get more into this after the break, but if you're talking about a major, Fortune magazine,
right,
you're not going to be sending it to the editor of Fortune magazine.
Right.
You're going to be sending it to the appropriate department editor. And so you do a little research, find out who that person is, and then reach out.
Yeah.
For smaller publications, which encompasses industry, trade publications, what we call vertical publications, you'll often want to go to the editor-in-chief.
Right.
Because they have the final say on what runs, and they're seeing everything anyway.
Well, you want to try to reach a decision maker, whether that's the top decision maker or the intermediate decision maker that will take it to the ultimate decision maker. But you're wasting your time if you're not sending it to the appropriate people.
Right. So
is what I'm
take
gathering.
the time to do the research. And 2 points. You will want to just know going in, you probably won't get paid for this article.
Right.
Very seldom do they offer payment for these industry type articles because the payment is in your getting published there, and you get some credibility. If they say there's payment involved, then take that as a bonus. So, and the other point I want to make, I just kind of dropped down my head, but I'll get back to it if I think of it.
Yeah, no.
It's Friday.
Yeah, it's all good. And you're super tan, which means that you've been doing some great stuff. I don't know how much. Oh, you're at the beach. I don't know how much.
For one day at least.
Yeah, no, you look great. I mean, but this is kind of an interesting thing because I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, if I can get published, then I'm going to make all of this money, kind of right out the chute. And it doesn't work that way. You're really writing to kind of prove your expertise and get your name out there. If you're good at it and it catches on, then maybe the money will come further down the line. But you got to almost kind of prove your worth first before you start saying, hey, this article is worth, X amount of dollars.
And the other point I wanted to make, I just remembered, if you
see, I did that for him. It's okay.
Thank you. If you do get a rejection, don't take it personally for one thing, but also assume that the editor is going to know who you are, and if they have a topic that you could be useful for, they might reach out to you down the road.
Right.
Or you could go back to them with another idea down the road, and now they'll know your name.
Yeah, you'll be discouraged at first, but really, that's the key, is that they will know your name the next time you submit, or
Right,
if
but
something comes up
but try not
relevant.
to even get discouraged, because you have that list. So if one publication doesn't like it,
You just keep
it's
going,
their loss.
right.
It's their loss. You go down to the next one.
That's why he's the PR guy. That's it.
So,
Let's take a quick break,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and we'll jump in, because I know you got a whole another section of what you want to get into.
publishing to get thought leadership.
Perfect. So we'll take a quick break here on Morning Coffee with the Reputation Wrap with Gary Frisch, and we'll be right back. Stick around on the Radio Vision Network.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Simply Gents, located in Marlton, New Jersey, takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facial, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
If you haven't been to Speed Raceway, what are you waiting for? You want to live fast? You want to make every second count? Then grab the family. Round up the guys. Speed Raceway is 100,000 square feet of excitement, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart. Speed Raceway is the place for endless fun all summer long. Log on to speedraceway.com or just get here now.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show was brought to you by Alicia Kelly of White Horse RV Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. Alicia is your RV expert. Contact Alicia at alicia@whitehorserv.com or give her a call at 856-262-1717, extension 203. When you think of RV, think Alicia Kelly.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back to the Reputation Wrap segment here on Morning Coffee, part of the Radio Vision Network. I'm Gary Frisch with, I didn't mention before, Swordfish Communications, with my co-host Mark. And we're talking about publishing, getting yourself out there for credibility and legitimacy, and to ultimately generate business and clients. And before this, the break, we were talking about getting out in industry trade publications within your business. Sometimes what you have to say reaches a broader audience, maybe a broader business audience, in which case you can go to any number of business publications. Every major city in the country has one. A lot of states have statewide business publications. I have a client that's a cybersecurity company in Philadelphia that had something to say about March Madness and protecting your computer networks in your place of business during the whole March Madness thing.
Right, because there's so much traffic all over the internet and in workplaces.
You want to make sure that the bandwidth doesn't slow down, your work. You also want to make sure that your employees aren't going in for NCAA related scams, for example. that could infect their computers.
Right.
So he published, and I ghost wrote an article for him with information that he provided me. That's what I do. I get the client's input because I'm not the expert, he is, and then I polished it up into an article, and we got that placed in a local business publication
Right.
as a guest column.
Right. So that was like a citywide business journal, which you said
Exactly.
are all over the place, that your article that you publish could fit there just as well as a specific trade publication.
In his home city.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you have to say has even a broader reach, in which case you can go to some mainstream media outlets. The same client, I actually went to him. I said, hey, what can you say about the Hillary Clinton email scandal? And, this was after she was exonerated. Well, not exonerated, but the FBI decided not to bring any charges against her. I said, how at risk were her emails? Tell me about this from your point of view.
Right.
And so he gave me a bunch of reasons. And again, with his help, we put together an article, and we got that placed again in the local business journal. But that could have also appeared, the topic, in perhaps the Philadelphia Inquirer or elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to the next piece of the puzzle, so to speak. Sometimes you might want to get your thoughts out there in the form of an opinion piece.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a fact-filled article, a how-to article. Sometimes you just have a very strong opinion on a topic that affects maybe your business or business people in general, or people in general. It doesn't have to be business related.
Right.
And you want to write an opinion piece, and that's a great outlet to get your ideas out there and get additional credibility for yourself. And kind of like with writing for an industry publication, you need to ask yourself the question, why would anybody care what I have to say on this subject?
Right.
So you need to either be somewhat of an expert on the subject you're writing about, or you need to bring maybe a contrarian point of view.
A
to
different
topic.
perspective.
A different perspective, that everybody's talking about, this side of the argument, and you have a different point of view on it.
Right.
For example, everybody says, global warming, climate change is bad. Maybe you could say, well, here's why it's actually good.
Right. Okay, I get your example, but right. Taking a different point of view can lend to the success of the article because it doesn't fall victim to being part of the pool of all of the other articles
right.
that
And
are.
it makes it interesting, especially if you can bring some reason to the debate, especially if you can bring some passion into it.
Right.
Editors like to see that sort of thing. Now, as a PR person, I tend to write about branding issues. I've written articles about reality TV show stars who try to parlay that into fame and fortune.
Snooki.
In the case, I'm thinking that I wrote about the couple that infiltrated a White House party.
Oh yeah, those two.
And Balloon Boy, the balloon that went flying. That was a ruse to get some attention for the.
So I just found out you're an actual Snooki fan. I should have never. I didn't mean to upset you, Gary.
I'm not a Snooki fan. But the point of the article was these people were trying to. They did these stunts in the hopes of attracting attention, in the hopes of getting into reality television. And so I wrote about that, and that was published in the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sometimes it's not about my expertise, but what you're passionate about.
Right.
I'm a big hockey fan. I think I mentioned that here before. I wrote an article around the Winter Olympics 2 years ago on why there will never be another miracle on ice, why there can never be another miracle on ice scenario,
right.
like the 1980 Olympic gold medal team. And that got published in two different newspapers in the opinion column because I took a look at that as a hockey fan.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about Olympics in general or world geopolitical issues in general. But I did bring my hockey acumen to bear in that article. So think about what you know about and offer that to an editor. And what I would suggest doing is write your article first and then send it, like you would with the industry publications, to the local newspaper opinion editor. And if one paper rejects it, try a different paper.
Right.
There might be 2 or 3 different papers within your state or your region.
Well, there should be if it's right. I mean, if you're getting different opinions from different places, right? Like major cities have multiple newspapers, but I think that most places have at least a couple different papers.
Well, you can go beyond your immediate city
right.
if you're a resident of the state.
Right.
And you can reach out to a different publication within the state.
Right.
For example, I grew up in North Jersey, although I live in southern New Jersey now. I've had articles published in the northern New Jersey newspaper simply because I'm a former resident
Right.
from up there, and I still live in the state of New Jersey.
Right.
So think beyond your local area.
Yeah.
Also again think in terms of what it is you do. If you're a retired Army general, you can write authoritatively about military policy.
Right.
I placed an article for a friend of mine, not even a client, just a friend of mine who's a world security expert and former special forces in the Israeli, special forces as well as Czech Republic special forces.
Wow.
And he wrote an article on how America should follow the Israeli model for security in the wake of all these mass shootings.
Okay.
And that was relevant because he's kind of the pro.
Right.
And this article got picked up by a newspaper in New Jersey.
Oh, that's cool.
But if you're a retired military officer, you're not going to want to write an article on how certain spices can add a great taste to any dish.
Right. It's not his expertise.
If you're a renowned chef, you can write an op-ed
Right.
article on your favorite spice.
I think what I'm learning though, Gary, is that these are ways to become, they're almost like gateways, because once you're in a newspaper, right, you don't know who's going to read that or where it could go from there, but you have to take the first steps to be able to get it done in order for that to happen. Do you have any examples that maybe you put an article up in a paper and it got picked up by the Associated Press or something along those lines? Because that can happen.
In this day and age, a lot of newspapers are owned by larger newspaper companies like Gannett, for example. And so sometimes when you place an article in a newspaper, that gets shared with other newspapers in the chain. I wrote an article on Dr. Palmer, the dentist who killed Cecil the Lion,
Right.
Last summer, and how he was vilified. He was public enemy number one.
Oh, yeah.
Article, how does he go about restoring his reputation? And the bigger question I asked was, what makes an animal beloved? That this particular animal became the topic of so many articles.
Right.
And that article ran in about, I think, over 15 or 16 different newspapers
Wow.
across the country.
That's awesome.
Just picked up by, as far away as the San Diego Union Tribune.
Oh, cool.
Even though it was published in the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're able to say that article was nationwide.
Exactly. So it can be a stepping stone to getting your name out there in a broader sense. If one of the things you need to do is inject your personal beliefs into it, your passion into it. Write as if you're talking with somebody and you're trying to, or debating with somebody, you're trying to make a case. Back it up. If you have some facts and figures, you can throw them in as well. Not essential, but more importantly, that you make your case. And, do that in, 500 to 700 words perhaps. Every publication is different, but that's kind of the sweet spot.
Right.
And you have a good chance of attracting the attention of an editor.
Well, and that sweet spot you talk about, because less than 500 words, you're not really getting your message out there, and more than that, it's too much.
Yeah, I would use less words only if the editor says, this is too long and we need to
Right.
write
You got to
something,
cut it down.
a little bit shorter. Another example is I published an article at the time that Blockbuster announced that they're closing their last remaining stores. I used to work in a video store when I was in college for several years. I have all kinds of memories of renting out videotapes.
So what that was like, yeah.
And I basically mined that experience for an article on an ode to the video rental store.
Yeah.
And that ran in a couple of different newspapers.
Oh, that's cool.
That weren't related, but geographically separate enough that they weren't stepping on toes.
Did I hear recently that Blockbuster finally closed their last store? That it just
No. What you heard? Well, Blockbuster closed their last store about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Or coming up.
That still seems like way too long.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. What you might be thinking of is a Japanese or Korean manufacturer announced that they had manufactured
Yeah,
the
last VCR. Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that was
tier, folks.
the article said that they had actually sold 750,000 units the previous year, and I'm wondering who the heck is buying VCRs even in Asian countries.
That's almost 1 million VCRs last year.
Oh no, I'm sorry, not 700, 75,000.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, but
All
still,
right, it's still a big number.
75,000 VCRs. In
Yeah,
this
that's
day and age, who knew?
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. I still have a VCR, but it's connected to a DVD player, right? It's one of those two-in-one. It's one of those two-in-one deals. That's the only reason we still have it, Bob.
Well, so my last piece of advice is, if you have something to say, don't be afraid to say it. Get out there with it. You know.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to write it. Have somebody, a colleague or a relative, take a look at it, edit it first for you, or come to someone like me.
Well, that's where that's where I was going to go, because I was going to say, look, if you guys are thinking about writing anything out there, but you need a little bit of help or direction, just get in touch with Gary from Swordfish Communications. This is what he does all day, every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can help you write the article. I can help you decide what to write about based on your knowledge base. I can help you write the article. I can get that article placed. I can help you come up with a list of.
You can help them with
target
everything,
your audience, basically.
from start to finish,
Yes.
from helping formulate a topic to helping getting it into those publications. So I urge everybody out there to check out Swordfish Communications and get in touch with Gary if this is something that you're interested in.
And we're at www.swordfishcomm.com. Thank you very much for joining us for Reputation Wrap here on the Radio Vision Network's Morning Coffee. We'll be back with you soon.